And do you think he's just saying it because he wants to believe it, or whether it really is true? He's always really big on Batman's a loner. He's got no family. That is crap. He's got Nightwing, Tim Drake, Black Canary. He's got people that would sacrifice their life for him. But yet, in his mind, he's still a loner. Is that something that you feel like he truly believes, or he's just in denial about it, or just...
Well, of course, we can't always throw it depends on who's writing the story thing into there. Some of that does fluctuate. I mean, DC actually varies in their decisions. It's okay, Batman's surrounded by way too many people. We've got to cut back the Bat family now. I mean, that is specific editorial decision, too. But in terms of looking at the character, okay, regardless of what happened behind the scenes, it happened. He fluctuates in these things. You can feel alone in a crowd. You can feel alone with a whole lot of other people around you. It's where, they don't know what's going on with you, and you don't feel you should open up. He's a very guarded person. This certainly intrudes in his love life, particularly. I mean, we've got, a history of examples. I mean, Vicky Vale, Linda Page, Julie Madison, Silver St. Cloud, every single one of them, his refusal to disclose his identity to them, one way or another, led to them leaving him. And particularly Silver St. Cloud. I mean, her reason given for leaving at the end was that she didn't want to see him in danger. But it starts with, she has figured out his secret identity. She's the first woman since Vicky Vale to recognize him from the shape of his jaw. Most of them in that world can't even recognize Clark Kent as Superman.
Very important right here, ladies.
Yeah. It's, this Superman. So it's like, okay, this guy's the jaw. But Vicky Vale, for her first story ever, she recognized from the jaw, then he found some way of showing, oh, no, it's not. Silver St. Cloud, when she finally got a good look at Batman, she's like, that is Bruce. And she knows he's Batman. He catches on that she knows, and there's this scene, it's like she's in a towel in her bedroom when Batman shows up at the window. It's like, you had something to say to me? She knows, he knows she knows. She won't say it unless he opens up. And he's not going to open up. It's like if there's any chance she doesn't know, and it becomes this, it sounds silly, but it's actually a very darkly romantic scene. It's like Dracula moving into the room, daunted by the girl in the towel. But he leaves, and he has really damaged his relationship by not doing that. He has moments with everyone. It's like with Catwoman. There's a storyline where it's been discovered that certain heroes have been altering the minds of different supervillains, and even that they'd altered her mind so that she could become more heroic. And she finds out this has been done to him, and she goes to him to talk. It's a little, if you know the comic books, you do know there are contradictory stories here.
Identity crisis is where it kind of started, yeah.
But there's one version of the story, it's like, where she knows that his mind got messed with. But this one scene, the writer didn't know that other one was writing the scene. Catwoman shows up at his place to say, they messed with my mind, Bruce, and you know me better than anybody else. These things that I've done, who really did them? The good that I've done, was it really me? And he's trying to assure that she really did. She just leaves. There's a moment when he could have told her that they'd done it to him too, but he doesn't say it. He won't lower his guard to reveal this very important thing that could have brought them closer, might have given her assurance. She leaves and just thinking, it's like, he doesn't understand. Who would ever do such a thing to him? And I can go on a long list of examples where his relationships have been screwed up because of how guarded he is.
Yes. There's also Bruce Wayne Murder and Bruce Wayne Fugitive.
Yeah, that's a big one in the relationships.
Yes, where Sasha Bordeaux, if I said her last name correctly, something happens to Vesper Fairchild. And so the best part is when everyone's like, could he have done it? Maybe he could have done it. But the thing is, when she went to court, she couldn't say where she was that night because she's out with Batman, not with Bruce Wayne, the person that she was guarding. So, her knowing, there's certain harm to that also.
And the knowledge is dangerous.
She went to jail for him, you guys.
Yeah, knowing the superhero's identity is a danger to the person who knows. Knowing the superhero's secret is dangerous to them. Related to that, one of the earliest scenes in that whole storyline is Sasha. It's a narrative. It's her thoughts, because they put your thought balloons in boxes like it's the narrative now, as if it's not thought balloons. And she's just thinking about the fact, it's like, he doesn't open up. He's so guarded. And here she is. She knows his identity now. They're lovers by that point. And she's just thinking about how he doesn't open up. He doesn't even talk about much of anything. So he's gotten to be a particularly broody point. The writers had decided, it's like, he's been getting even more into the bat dickery lately. And it's like, we're going to just lay it on thick and then have him emerge at the end of the storyline. Really, I do need you people. And also him having gone through a point where he says, Bruce Wayne is not real. Forget it. I'm really Batman. I'm not even going to bother being Bruce Wayne. And by the end, he realizes, like, okay, I really am Bruce Wayne. I do need Bruce. I do need that human side of myself. The parents who died that night were not the parents of a bat. They were the parents of a guy named Bruce Wayne.
Right. So, and about your book itself, for all those who know, is it available on Amazon? It is. I clicked on it.
It is, but you can find more copies on Barnes & Noble. But Amazon keeps reaching the point where it says only 20 copies or so left, more on the way. No, Barnes & Noble has a huge portion of the copies. So in the bookstores, I know other bookstores have them too, Books A Million and others. But Barnes & Noble more often has it in some of the current displays related to the upcoming movie. And Barnes & Noble has a huge portion of the orders. It might be partly Barnes & Noble's fault that it was going so quickly to second printing, which is a nice thing as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So how many pages is it and how long did it take you?
352 pages. It took 3 years of thinking, and then 3.5 months from when we finalized the contract to when I had to have it finished. I had to have the finished copy. It was a challenge. It wore my wife out, but again, it just me being in that book all the time. But I'd had 3 years of thinking about this. I'd had a lot of notes, and then I had the time to get it written. Some of the material was easier than others, and 2 of the chapters had already been written. I'd written 2 sample chapters to present to the publisher, so those had been done. Those didn't need much tweaking to fit with the rest of the material. And so out of the 14 chapters, I had 12 to get written in 3.5 months, and a lot of them I already knew because I've been doing these panels. I've explored these ideas. Some of it was new ideas. Some of it's finding a new story to tell. I don't want to have to go through every single time explaining why this character is a psychopath. Here's why this one's a psychopath. Here's why that one's a psychopath. That gets old. So when I have a feature on the Riddler, that one, okay, obsessive compulsive disorder and his narcissism. That's pretty straightforward. Out of all the Batman's enemies, he fits OCD the best, partly by the definition psychiatrically on compulsion is at some point it's bothered them, that they've known, it's like, there's something wrong with this. Other villains, their compulsion, the Mad Hatter has never thought there's anything wrong with his interest in hats. Riddler at times has gone, I really shouldn't send riddles this time. This time I'm not going to leave clues. He loves sending the clues. He loves the riddle. He loves that challenge. But sometimes no, I'm going to do it. And he sends the clues anyway. He gives into the compulsion. And so he was a great one to talk about with OCD. Some of the other, Mad Hatter, I can talk about schizophrenia and some of Grant Morrison, what he set up on possible pedophilia. So I had issues that I wouldn't discuss with anybody else, especially on that latter part. For some of them, it's a little more of a challenge. Bane was possibly the last one I wrote up because it took me a while to decide what story to tell about Bane, to tie the story of the character together with some issue psychologically. So some of the basic needs, need for achievement, need for power, need for affiliation, some of the most dominant needs that affect human beings in general, I go, okay, Bane, low on need for affiliation. He's like, he doesn't need other people. He can't enjoy other people, and then he decides that is a weakness for me. I need to discard them. Power, he likes power, but more important to him is the need for achievement, the need for a challenge. If he had a choice between running all crime in Gotham and leaving all that to go get a new challenge, he'd leave all that to go get a new challenge. He's driven by that, so I could use Bane to talk about these particular dominant needs. Harley Quinn, I can use it to talk about, is it dependent personality disorder? What other shared psychosis? What is it about her that makes her buy into this stuff with the Joker? The Joker is one of the best ones for me to discuss the issues of insanity. What is insane? What is not? Some of the characters, there are things worth talking about, like ventriloquist or Man-Bat. They barely get mentioned because I didn't have a new story I wanted to tell with them psychologically. I covered multiple personality back when I went into King Tut from the Adam West TV series. To do a little feature on this one. The only villain I analyzed from that show is he's the only breakout villain that was original in the TV series anyway, where that character does not match real world psychology, because that show did not match real world psychology. And it still let me talk about, well, what possibly could fit him. I go through the whole group of dissociative disorders to say, here's why this one doesn't quite fit, why this one doesn't quite fit, but I get to teach the readers about each one of these as I go through to what could possibly fit that guy.
So